It demarked the battlefield of suburban justice. The night swallowed everything but the truth. A single security camera lens captured what would become the most pivotal moment in Oakridge Estates history, a moment that would unravel the carefully constructed facade of suburban perfection. Timestamp 2:37 a.m. Karen Thompson moved like a predator, her all-black ensemble a testament to her calculated intent. The disabled parking sign stood as her target, a blue beacon of accessibility that she had deemed an unacceptable blemish on her meticulously curated community landscape. She didn't know the cameras were watching. She didn't know her entire world was about to collapse. Miguel Rodriguez's journey began long before this moment, in the dusty, unforgiving terrain of Afghanistan. As a combat engineer in the United States Army, he had learned that survival was about more than just physical endurance. It was about adaptability, resilience, and an unwavering spirit that refused to be broken. The explosion that took his leg was both an ending and a beginning. It happened during a critical mission to clear an improvised road of potential explosive devices. Miguel had always been the most meticulous member of his unit, a characteristic that had saved countless lives during his tours. But that day, a carefully hidden IED demonstrated that even the most prepared soldier could be caught off guard. Medical recovery was brutal. Months of rehabilitation, countless surgeries, prosthetic fittings that felt more like battles than medical procedures. But Miguel Rodriguez was not a man who knew how to surrender. His wife, Elena, had been his rock. A civil rights attorney with a reputation for taking on seemingly impossible cases, she understood battles fought on different kinds of front lines. Where Miguel's battles had been physical, hers were legal, dismantling systemic barriers one courtroom at a time. Their move to Oakridge Estates was supposed to be a fresh start, a suburban dream after years of military postings and intense legal battles. They had chosen the neighborhood carefully, a community that seemed progressive, welcoming. The house was perfect, modified to accommodate Miguel's mobility needs, with wide doorways, smooth transitions, and that critical disabled parking sign. But perfection, they would soon learn, was a dangerous illusion. Karen Thompson represented a specific type of suburban authoritarianism that had been brewing in American communities for decades. 52 years old, with a perfectly maintained blonde bob and a wardrobe that screamed country club exclusivity, she had transformed the Oakridge Estates Homeowners Association into her personal fiefdom. Her husband, Robert Thompson, was a retired, middle management executive who had spent most of his career avoiding confrontation. Their two adult children had long since escaped the suffocating environment of their parents' home, creating lives as far from their mother's controlling nature as possible. For Karen, the HOA presidency was more than a volunteer position. It was a mission, a calling. She saw herself as the guardian of community standards, the last bastion against what she perceived as the gradual decay of suburban excellence. The Rodriguez family represented everything Karen feared and despised: a mixed-race couple, a disabled veteran, a powerful civil rights attorney. They didn't fit into her narrow, predetermined vision of community perfection. The first conflicts were subtle: passive-aggressive letters about minor landscaping infractions, complaints about the shade of blue used on their window trim, repeated citations for perceived violations of community standards. Miguel and Elena recognized the pattern immediately. They had fought systemic discrimination before. This was just another battlefield, but the disabled parking sign became the ultimate point of contention. Positioned precisely according to city and federal regulations, the sign was a lifeline for Miguel. It provided the necessary space for him to safely enter and exit his vehicle, to manage his prosthetic leg, to maintain his hard-won independence. For Karen Thompson, it was an unacceptable blemish on her vision of suburban aesthetic perfection. The security footage captured everything with clinical precision. Karen approached the sign with a utility knife, a can of dark paint, and a level of premeditation that suggested this was not a spontaneous act. This was war. She carefully scored the sign's edges, attempting to weaken its mounting. The dark paint was applied strategically, designed to deface and potentially render the sign unreadable. Her movements were calculated, almost surgical in their precision. What Karen didn't know was that the Rodriguez family's home was a fortress of documentation. Miguel's military training and Elena's legal expertise meant that nothing happened without thorough record-keeping. When they reviewed the footage the next morning, there was no anger, just a cold, professional assessment of the situation. "We're going to make an example of her," Elena said, her voice a soft whisper that carried the weight of years of civil rights litigation. The legal preparation was methodical. Every piece of evidence was collected, cross-referenced, analyzed. Previous HOA communications were compiled, witness statements were gathered, expert consultations were scheduled. Miguel's role was critical. As a decorated veteran who had transitioned into working with veterans support organizations, he understood the power of narrative. Their fight was about more than a parking sign. It was about dignity, respect, the fundamental right to exist. Without constant harassment, the local police were initially hesitant. Karen Thompson was a well-connected member of the community, but the evidence was irrefutable. Security camera footage, forensic analysis of the vandalism, a comprehensive documentation of previous harassment. When the case went to court, it became more than a simple vandalism charge. It became a comprehensive examination of systemic discrimination, community standards, and the rights of disabled individuals. Elena's legal strategy was brilliant. She transformed the courtroom into an educational platform, bringing in expert witnesses who could speak to the broader implications of Karen's actions. Urban planners testified about the critical importance of accessible parking. Disability rights advocates explained the psychological impact of constant marginalization. Veterans support organizations detailed the additional challenges faced by disabled veterans. Miguel's testimony was a masterclass in dignified resistance. He spoke not with anger, but with a quiet, powerful narrative that cut through Karen's fabricated defenses. "This sign," he would say, touching his prosthetic leg, "represents more than a parking space. It represents my right to participate fully in this community, my right to independence, my right to be seen as a complete human being." The judge, a seasoned jurist with a reputation for no-nonsense rulings, listened with increasing disbelief. Her questioning dismantled Karen's defense piece by piece. The verdict was comprehensive and devastating. Karen was found guilty of multiple charges: vandalism, harassment, violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but the punishment extended far beyond individual penalties. The Oakridge Estates HOA was mandated to undergo extensive re-education. Comprehensive training on disability rights, accessibility, and community inclusivity became a court-ordered requirement. Karen was removed from her position and prohibited from serving in any community leadership role for 5 years. But the true victory was cultural. In the months and years that followed, Miguel and Elena became unexpected community leaders. They used their platform to raise awareness about disability rights, about the invisible battles fought by veterans, about the importance of true community inclusivity. The disabled parking sign, now a symbol of resistance, remained firmly in place, but it represented something far more significant than a simple parking space. 5 years after the incident, Oakridge Estates had been fundamentally transformed. The HOA, once a bastion of narrow-minded conformity, became a model of inclusive community planning. Miguel continued his work as a veterans advocate, developing programs that supported disabled veterans' integration into civilian communities. Elena's legal practice expanded, taking on cases that challenged systemic discrimination at its root. Thompson found herself professionally and socially isolated. The very community she had tried to control now saw her as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked prejudice and small-minded tyranny. For Miguel Rodriguez, it was more than a legal victory. It was a continuation of the battles he had fought, not with weapons, but with dignity, perseverance, and an unbreakable commitment to justice. The night Thompson thought she could erase a symbol of accessibility became the moment she lost everything. And the Rodriguez family? They had gained something far more valuable, a powerful testament to the enduring power of standing up for what's right. In the end, it wasn't just about a parking sign. It was about reclaiming humanity, one battle at a time.